Audience is a complicated question in art in general. Art does have an audience. Or put it this way, art doesn't even exist without an audience, I don't think. Art is a dialogue. It's, think about visual, does the poem really exist until it's heard by the reader? In a way, kind of not really. It's just words running through your head, even if you write it down. So there is an audience. Even for those, a lot of poets try to deny there's any audience. No, it's this and that. No, there's an audience. Even if your audience is just some, God. Emily Dickinson, we'd say. Whitman wrote for a giant, in American poetry we have a mother and father figure. Whitman wrote for an audience. He imagined the audience as everybody, every single American. He knew they weren't, to his annoyance, they weren't actually reading him, but that's who he was writing for. Dickinson wrote for God, or for that other, the master, or whatever secret voice. She was whispering poems into one ear, even though we don't know whose ear it was. Whereas Whitman was broadcasting them from the mountaintop to everybody. Does it really matter? No, because neither one of them reached the audience. They were, Whitman didn't really talk to God, and Dickinson and Whitman didn't talk to everybody. But you can, in other words, you can do that. You can be as fine as that one. I'm speaking, vertically to one voice only, one ear, or I'm talking horizontally to the masses. Neither one's, both seem too extreme, maybe, in their point of view, but. But poetry and visual art has an audience. People do line up to go to shows at MoMA to see this or that. Not everything, and pretty much all arts except for maybe modern dance. Poetry have an audience. Poetry's got a very small audience. Really, very few people read poetry. It's not visible. It's just not. It's invisible in the culture. What is in the New Yorker? And if a Democrat is the president, somebody reads a poem at the inauguration. Otherwise, it's invisible. Except in greeting cards, kind of offshoots or variations on poetry. So, nonetheless, I write poems often in a pretty populistic voice, which is really kind of taken from Whitman, I guess. The notion that I'm, especially my poems about the American experience, or about which come out of my own just life. But when I write in that vein, I tend to write kind of to Whitman's audience, if I'm writing a poem about driving a car across the Great Plains, then I don't know why I would write that privately. That's intended to communicate something about that human experience. I think humanism is my bottom line on this. Art is a humanistic gesture. There's no such thing as art. That's the key. I really am incredibly aggravated about visions of art. What if we let robots make our art? What if a computer algorithm generated my poem? That's a computer game. That's not art. Art is essentially a human endeavor. So often in my poems, I'm sharing a kind of human thought or insight or song, but not everything I do is. Sometimes I'm just writing. I have more arcane or kind of inward turning poems at times, but at times you're just look, this is a part of the Shannon is a part of the American experience. It's a story I'm trying to tell. So that's I've always felt like Shannon could be read by every high school senior in the state of Nebraska, and it would probably be good for them. This never happened, but so in a way, I don't think the actual audience for poetry is very large, and it's mostly university centered, which has led poetry down this path towards academic writing, conceptual writing, theoretical writing, which is a dead end. But that doesn't stop me from writing to an audience, even if I know it's not there.